Sweaty Clam has officially hit 200,000 subscribers. A big shout out to everyone who has stuck with us over the last year or so, from when I was just a floating clam with eyes to when I wore a hoodie that one time. And to celebrate, we've prepared a fact blast to the face of 200 Family Guy facts you need to know. According to Seth MacFarlane, during the audition process for finding the Family Guy cast, actor Seth Green was the only one to audition for Chris without using a surfer dude accent. That's the kind of voice MacFarlane gave Chris when he voiced him in the pilot, but Green managed to give Chris a voice that honestly has probably done irreparable damage to Green's vocal cords.
Thou shalt get drunk, yeah!
The reason why Family Guy's done so many Star Wars parodies is because they actually received the blessing of Star Wars creator George Lucas. Lucas was a fan of the show and actually encouraged them to follow through on parodying the entire trilogy. No word on the prequels getting the same treatment. Maybe there's just too much material to work with there. Peter Griffin was based on a man named Paul Timmons. Timmons was a campus security guard at the school Seth went to, the Rhode Island School of Design. He and Seth would shoot the breeze every now and then, and MacFarlane would design Peter based on Timmons' look and Rhode Island accent. There are typically 3 different versions of Family Guy. There's the Fox broadcast version, which is usually the most censored, the Adult Swim/TBS version that is uncut but retains language censoring, and the DVD version, which is uncut and uncensored.
What the f***?
Actor William H. Macy originally auditioned for the role of Brian, but was ultimately passed over when he was deemed too pitchy for the role. And what followed was essentially Seth MacFarlane building an infinity gauntlet to collect voice roles on the show.
Do you think your crocodile boots have more lines between the crocodile parts than mine?
Fox has been sued at least 3 times because of Family Guy. One was a lawsuit by actress Carol Burnett for the portrayal of one of her characters in the episode Peterotica. Another was the Bourne Company, which sued over the show's parody of When You Wish Upon a Star in the episode When You Wish Upon a Weinstein. And a third time occurred when comedian Art Matrano sued over Family Guy lampooning his magic trick act in Stewie Griffin The Untold Story. And Family Guy won every single one. Brian has a Ziggy tattoo.
Is that Ziggy?
No.
You have a Ziggy tattoo?
Jesus.
Why do you have a Ziggy tattoo?
Ziggy's a comic strip character that's been around since the 70s, and the reason Brian has a tattoo of him may be because Ziggy's dog happens to look an awful lot like Brian. In the episode Welcome Back Carter, Carter and Babs listen to the new hit song Jeepers Creepers. The song came out in 1939, which means those two should be close to 100 years old by now. But it's not like time and order have any place in the Family Guy universe. Peter's full name is Peter Lowenbrow Griffin Sr., although his birth certificate previously listed his name as Justin Peter Griffin.
Oh my God, your first name is Justin?
It is? Wow, I never noticed that.
Truer words have never been said that have summed up Peter perfectly. Lois's full name is Lois Patrice Griffin. Ooh, so fancy, so upper class. Personally, I liked her other middle name better.
Do you, lowest common denominator Peter Schmidt, accept this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?
Chris's full name is Christopher Cross Griffin. Not only is this a cute little nod to a particular style of sitting, but it's also in reference to American guitarist Christopher Cross. Stewie's full name is Stuart Gilligan Griffin. This could be a nod to the popular television show Gilligan's Island, but the name just rolls right off the tongue so much that the one-time longest domestic cat in the world took on the same name. Meg's full name is Megatron Harvey Oswald Griffin. The Megatron part comes from Peter, who called an audible right after she was born, and the Harvey Oswald part comes from the guy who shot and killed John F. Kennedy. Suits her perfectly. Seth MacFarlane hand-drew the 16-minute pilot pitch for Family Guy, and those little scribbles became one of the most lucrative pilot purchases television has ever seen. Can Seth just be bad at one thing already?
Oh, don't feel bad, Peter.
Oh, gee, I never thought of it like that.
Seth MacFarlane's budget for the pilot was only $50,000, which explains why he did most of the animation himself and why he voices almost all of the characters in the pilot. He could put down the pencil, but he'd never walk away from the recording booth. While it's a running joke that Family Guy has yet to win an Emmy, it actually made history by becoming the second animated show to be nominated for Outstanding Comedy Series, a feat the Flintstones achieved in 1961, and Family Guy wouldn't achieve until nearly 50 years later in 2009. The phrase "what the hell" is said at least once in almost every single episode. This hasn't been 100% verified, but it has been widely accepted as fact. But hey, maybe after another 200,000 subscribers, we may be so inclined to hunt down every single instance. Family Guy is banned in numerous countries across the world, including Taiwan, Indonesia, Iran, Vietnam, Egypt, the Philippines, Malaysia, South Korea, Russia, and India. It's time Pretoria stepped in and made things right.
I was gonna call it Peterland, but that gay bar down by the airport already took it.
The first season of the show started a trend of naming every episode with some mention of death and murder. This was done as an homage to 1940 radio thrillers, but the idea was dropped by the second season because the episodes would have most likely become too hard to distinguish. The Griffins don't actually seem to own their house, as it's been mentioned numerous times that Lois's parents pay for the mortgage or that they just rent it.
Be careful with that thing. Remember, we're renting this house.
That's depressing.
The song Christmas Time Is Killing Us from the episode Road to the North Pole was nominated for an Emmy in 2011 and a Grammy in 2012. So far, this is the only song from Family Guy to make it to the Grammys. Knowing that Seth MacFarlane loves to sing, this is probably eating away at him more than the Emmy losses. Seth MacFarlane actually outed Stewie as gay during a 2009 interview with Playboy magazine, stating that this was originally meant to be revealed in an episode but was ultimately scrapped to keep his orientation more vague. MacFarlane has his own headcanon, and frankly, it's the only one that counts. In the episode Hefty Shades of Grey, Dr. Hartman reveals that he's actually gay too, as he states that he's marrying a man.
You think it's gonna stay, Dr. Hartman?
No, it's gonna be Dr. Ramirez now. I'm taking my husband's name.
While a lot of people say that Family Guy owes its success to The Simpsons, another pillar of adult animation played just as important a role: King of the Hill. Due to the show's success on Fox, the network decided to pick up more animated series, with one of those, of course, being Family Guy. Each episode takes around 1 year to make, costing around $2 million per episode. Additionally, each of the main cast members gets around $200,000 per episode. That means the main cast is making around $4 million every season. That fact put a very sharp pain in my chest. You may remember that Chris had an earring in the earlier seasons, but this was eventually removed to make animating him easier. He was only supposed to have one, but because the Korean animation team often flipped drawings, the earring would often appear on the wrong side of Chris's head. Meg is technically not the same Meg we've seen for most of the show. In the season 15 episode, A House Full of Peters, the original Meg was eliminated and replaced with a Russian clone.
Meg, where are you?
I'm right here, Mom.
Since the season 12 episode, Herpy the Love Sore, Stewie, Chris, and Brian all continue to have herpes. This never really gets brought up, but considering there's no cure for the HSV-1 or HSV-2 virus, that means the three of them are pretty much stuck with it for life. Meg's pink hat is iconic, but it actually serves a purpose. In Friends Without Benefits, it's revealed that the hat is used to cover her heart, which she was born with on her head.
Yeah, that's not supposed to be there, so she should probably always wear a hat.
According to a 2003 interview with IGN, Seth MacFarlane revealed that Family Guy was originally conceived to be a series of shorts on Mad TV, not too different from The Simpsons' origins on The Tracy Ullman Show. But since Mad TV didn't have the budget for animation at the time, off to Fox it went. Alex Borstein wasn't the studio's original pick for the voice of Lois Griffin, despite voicing her in the pilot pitch. Because of this, Alex had to audition twice before eventually securing the iconic role. Lois was actually supposed to be blonde, as seen in the pilot episode. They say blondes have more fun, but Lois seems to be having a decent enough time with the red hair.
Kids, I just don't know if I like the idea of your father going to a stag party tonight.
Neil Goldman, the son of Mort Goldman and Meg's occasional love interest, is actually named after one of the writers of the show. What a legacy to leave behind.
I might even go lefty tonight. Stranger in the tub.
The creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, have stated that they hate Family Guy, particularly because of its style of writing and how the show formulates a joke. I guess there are worse animals to be compared to than a couple of ball-moving manatees. And South Park isn't the only show to have a little distaste for Family Guy, as the crew of The Simpsons actually sent the South Park team flowers to show appreciation for the show dunking on Family Guy. The opening theme song to Family Guy is iconic, but it was actually inspired by the intro to the show All in the Family, particularly how it reminisces on the good old days. The world changing around you is scary, but luckily someone will always be there to make you laugh and cry. Family Guy's been canceled twice in its lifetime, first in 2000, only to be brought back again in 2002, before being canceled once again due to low ratings. It's tied with Futurama as one of the most canceled and revived shows in history. Over 100,000 people signed a petition to bring the show back after its cancellation, but what ultimately brought the show back was high ratings of reruns on Adult Swim and high DVD sales. It's called putting your money where your mouth is, which is kinda gross. You know how many hands have touched that money? Brian Griffin was named Stoner of the Year in 2009 by High Times Magazine at their annual Stoner of the Year Awards.
I ate a pot cookie, so, yeah. So good luck with all that.
The PTC, or the Parents Television and Media Council, has been one of Family Guy's biggest detractors over the years, having criticized the show on multiple occasions and even petitioned to get the show canceled on more than one occasion. Whatever happened to turning the other cheek, fellas? The PTC even has a weekly newsletter detailing the worst television shows of the week, and Family Guy has graced that list over 40 times.
So get all your pukes and farts out now.
Seth MacFarlane revealed that the inspiration for the voice of Quagmire came from the mid-Atlantic style of accent that was popular with radio announcers in the 1940s and 50s.
The entire 1960s have concluded, and the 70s will have no time for this.
At just 24 years old, Seth MacFarlane was television's youngest executive producer and showrunner. All I can do is take a look at my college degree on the wall and sigh. The Family Guy franchise is estimated to be worth around $2 billion, including the show, merchandise, and everything in between.
Yes, we won the lottery! I'm getting a butler.
There's been a bit of a debate over whether or not Seth MacFarlane stole the design of Stewie from the comic Jimmy Corrigan, the Smartest Kid on Earth. That does look a lot like him. Football-headed kids must have just been really popular at the time. One of the reasons for the Family Guy and The Simpsons crossover was to finally squash the beef between the two Fox shows. They had spent years firing shots at one another, and the studio felt it was time for the two shows to kiss and make up. Meg apparently can't taste salt. This can be caused by viral infections like a cold that desensitizes your taste buds. The suffering just doesn't stop with this girl, does it?
I can't taste salt.
The guy who calls Peter a big fat phony in the episode The Kiss Scene Around the World was never given an official name, but was lovingly dubbed Holden Caulfield by fans. That's the name of the main character from J.D. Salinger's classic novel The Catcher in the Rye, who also has a tendency to label people as phonies. In the episode Whistle While Your Wife Works, Peter goes to retrieve his smut books with the code 10221976. This is actually the birthday of animation director Greg Colton, and the guy behind the desk's name is Greg as well.
Hey, Greg.
Afternoon, Mr. Griffin.
The original ending to the episode Let's All Go to the Hop was much more depressing. After Peter fakes his death as Lando Griffin, instead of being treated nicely, Meg is actually treated worse than before, with one girl even spitting in her face. The sequence involving Stewie shooting down a legion of tiny aircrafts in the episode of Mission Impossible marks the first time the series used computer-animated sequences in the show, which would become a bit more commonplace as the series went on. Stewie's new babysitter in 8 Simple Rules for Buying My Teenage Daughter is named LaDawn, borrowing her name from LaDawn Sanders, the production controller for Family Guy, American Dad, and The Cleveland Show. However, in the closed captioning, the character's name is spelled incorrectly. Quagmire seems to be building himself a love doll using parts of Lois, as he's seen adding her hair to the doll in a Mission Impossible, and he's digging through the garbage to find her toenail clippings in Patriot games. Just remember, Quagmire's the name of the scientist and not the monster he builds. Seth MacFarlane was surprised to find that the headmaster of the prep school he attended, Kent School, had started up a campaign to get Family Guy taken off the air. Headmaster Richardson Shell began a campaign of letters designed to look like an organization was targeting the show, but really it was just the one man. Chris is currently the only member of the Griffin family who has yet to kiss Brian. Peter gave him a peck on the cheek in Brian Portrait of a Dog, Lois kissed him in The Perfect Castaway, Meg kissed him in Barely Legal, and Stewie has kissed him, honestly, more times than we can count. The Road 2 series of episodes is among some of the fans' most favorite, and there were 3 episodes that nearly received the honor of being a part of that group. Saving Private Brian was almost named Road to Iraq, Spies Reminiscent of Us was almost named Road to 85, and Back to the Pilot was almost named Road to the Pilot. The roller skating rink the guys go to get funky at in Hell Comes to Quahog is actually a real chain, United Skates of America. There's even one located in Rhode Island.
That was awesome!
Oh my god, that was completely by accident.
The episode Mother Tucker featured a cutaway showing Darth Vader leading a normal life before blowing up the Death Star. Coincidentally, a web series called Chad Vader, Day Shift Manager was uploaded to YouTube a few months before the episode aired, presenting the Sith Lord in a very similar light. In the episode You May Now Kiss the, Guy Who Receives, Lois watches a tape called The Homosexual in You, which tries to push an anti-gay message. However, Fox requested that the show added a little blurb at the bottom of the video's title card to say it was created by televangelist Pat Robertson, so it wouldn't look like the network was against homosexuality. In Sibling Rivalry, Peter attempts to do a little dirty talk inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, claiming he's a paladin in possession of the Helm of Disintegration and the Holy Avenger. While the Holy Avenger is a real item in D&D, the Helm of Disintegration is not. Maybe he meant the Helm of Disjunction? D&D LARPers, I tell ya. In I Take Thee Quagmire, Adam West sends the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek, back to his own dimension by getting him to say his name backwards. A year later, an actual contestant on Jeopardy with $1 to his name and nothing to lose tried this trick out on Trebek. Unfortunately, his results varied. When Quagmire speaks Elvish to his future wife in I Take Thee Quagmire, he only says one word of actual Elvish. He says the word Mithrander, which is a name used by the elves for Gandalf the Grey, meaning Grey Pilgrim or Grey Wanderer. To close out his guest appearance in the episode Brian Sings and Swings, singer Frank Sinatra Jr. actually recorded a swing version of the Family Guy theme for the closing credits. He's the only man Seth MacFarlane will allow to show him up in singing. Brian is like an elephant, he never forgets. He's gotten revenge on other characters for their transgressions against him from past episodes. After Stewie beat him up in Patriot games, Brian failed to warn Stewie before drinking out of a spit cup. And in The Fat Guy Strangler, Brian hits Peter with a rock as revenge for closing the car window on him into Love and Die in Dixie. The Fenway Park Peter tries to take Stewie to in The Courtship of Stewie's Father is based around the proposed designs of the new Fenway Park project that was created in 2001. The project never came to fruition, but it still lives on within a brief scene in Family Guy. The New Yorker received a bit of a friendly ribbing when they were parodied in the episode Brian Goes Back to College, and the publication actually clapped back with a cheeky little retort themselves. I guess it wouldn't be a good look to get overly mad at a cartoon dog. Dan Povenmire, who you may know as the co-creator of Phineas and Ferb and the voice of Dr. Doofenshmirtz, was an illustration director on the show for the first 5 seasons and was responsible for most of the musical sequences in those earlier seasons. For the iconic FCC song that celebrated the controversial moments of the show, TV censors requested that the Family Guy team remove 2 clips from the montage sequence. One was a new scene involving a half-naked Peter and a sheep tied to the bed, and the other scene was from an episode that had already been broadcast several times. In The Perfect Castaway, Stewie pronounces Cool Whip without heavy emphasis on the H, so he is just doing it to get under Brian's skin.
Lois, I smell whipped cream. Are you making strawberry shortcake?
The episode Brian the Bachelor contains the final voice acting credit of John Irwin, who ends up voicing the character he made famous, He-Man.
I have the power!
The song Stewie dances to for his iPod commercial in Pete's Hearted is called The Warrior by the band Scandal. While it isn't heard in this episode, one of the last few lines of the song is "Victory is mine," which just so happens to be something Stewie tended to say a lot back in the day. The chicken fight that was featured in Blind Ambition was actually intended to appear in the episode The Cleveland Red Quagmire, but was moved to the former episode when the latter ended up running too long. The man in the red wig that kicks Peter in the groin at the end of The Cleveland Red Quagmire comes from a web show called Kicked in the Nuts, which was co-created by Mike Henry, the former voice of Cleveland Brown and the current voice of Consuela, Bruce, and Herbert. Mila Kunis had to beg Seth MacFarlane not to have her sing in the episode Don't Make Me Over, so the show brought in Tara Strong to do the singing portions of the episode. Who knew Timmy Turner had some pipes on him? Okay, bear with us on this. In the episode Fast Times at Buddy Sancy Junior High, Mrs. Lockhart gives a lesson on the book 1984, which happens to be the name of a Van Halen album which contains a song called Hot for Teacher, which features a seductive teacher stripping in the video. It all comes full circle. Despite being known as the mind behind Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane only has 3 solo writing credits on the show. Those are the episodes Death Has a Shadow, Family Guy Viewer Mail #1, and North by North Quahog. Since Peter isn't technically related to Francis Griffin, that would mean that Peter isn't actually related to most of the Griffin family tree by blood. I guess Irish genes either make you look like Peter or Francis, with no in between. To make things even, after Lois sleeps with Bill Clinton in Bill and Peter's Bogus Journey, Peter comes close to sleeping with Lois's mother. However, in the original script for the episode, Peter would come close to sleeping with Trisha Takanawa before backing down at the last minute. The spoof of the Jetsons that appears in Meet the Quagmires uses the characters' original designs from the show, despite being portrayed in the Family Guy art style in a previous episode.
Bull.
The episode Blue Harvest was released the same year as the original Star Wars 30th anniversary. All the love to that original movie, but I can only imagine Han Solo wearing a XXL vest and seeing that episode. Voice actor Cree Summer revealed in an interview that she was originally cast to play Meg, but was let go from the role before she could ever record for an actual episode. The Meg voice actor iceberg gets a little deeper every day. In the episode Run Chris Run, Peter and Cleveland play an old NES basketball game called Double Dribble. Rather than record their own gameplay, the show used footage from a YouTube video that was later given a copyright strike by Fox after the episode aired. Luckily, an outcry from fans led to the strike being reversed, and the YouTube video is still up to this day. Cherry Chevaprava Dumrong has not only been a producer for Family Guy, but she was also once the only female writer on the show. Not only that, but she's also a lawyer, having graduated from NYU Law School and even majored in psychology at Yale. Quagmire is shown to be left-handed, as when he leaves his house in Family Guy after discovering the internet, his left arm is noticeably jacked. Either that or he feels like a stranger's hand if he used his non-dominant one. The reason why there are so many clam-themed names and locations in Family Guy is because quahog is a type of hard-shell clam. Eating them might be what makes the people in that town so crazy. Definitely not saying that because I notice you've been looking at me a little hungrily during these videos. Seth MacFarlane has stated before that the reason why Meg ended up being a target for so much abuse is that the writer's room was predominantly men and no one seemed to know how to properly write for a teenage girl. The character of Death was actually supposed to be far more of a recurring character in the earlier seasons, but because the writers struggled to come up with good ways to integrate him into the plot, the idea was ultimately dropped. In the episode Undergrounded, Joe claims he was in the show Seinfeld, which is actually only half true. Joe's voice actor Patrick Warburton did have a recurring role on the show where he played Elaine's boyfriend Putty. Drew Barrymore is perhaps most well known to fans for voicing Brian's longest running girlfriend, Jillian. But before she did that, she actually voiced the character of Mrs. Lockhart from Fast Times at Buddy Sancy Junior High. MacFarlane enjoyed working with her so much that he asked her to return for the semi-recurring role of Jillian. Drew Barrymore and Seth MacFarlane previously worked together on Drew's documentary Choose or Lose Presents The Best Place to Start, and the two have maintained a long-lasting friendship and professional relationship since. Stewie's voice was inspired by Sir Rex Harrison, an English actor, specifically his performance from the 1964 film My Fair Lady. MacFarlane wanted Stewie to sound like a displaced Edwardian actor, and I don't know what that means, but I think he nailed that. Peter's longtime boss at the Pawtucket Brewery, Angela, was inspired by Rachel's boss at Bloomingdale's from the series Friends, Joanna Miller. Both characters would die in their respective series, and only one of those deaths actually made people sad. And surprisingly, it wasn't Angela's. Seth ended up re-recording Stewie's line in the show's intro around season 4 because people were mishearing it as him saying F and cry rather than laugh and cry.
I swear he says the F word.
The Griffin family usually always has the same type of dinner: 3 slices of something resembling beef, mashed potatoes, and peas. This is most likely done to make the animation process easier, but I'd like to believe Lois only knows how to make one type of meal. The license plate for Brian's Prius reads Brydog, so if you see that car on the highway, that's your cue to run that guy off the road.
And by the way, driving a Prius doesn't make you Jesus Christ.
The calendar often found in the Griffin's kitchen has a picture of the same buildings that can be seen behind the house when the show cuts to an exterior shot. Peter's actually wearing a woman's shirt. Men's shirts typically have their buttons on the right-hand side, and women's shirts usually have them on the left. Well, it's been 25 years, so I see no reason to change things up now. Michael Dante DiMartino worked as a director on Family Guy up until the show's first cancellation. This would then lead him to go on to co-create the Nickelodeon series Avatar: The Last Airbender. The street behind Cleveland's home is actually named after the creator of the show as McFarlane. I'm sure that street is a nightmare for Seth's Uber Eats orders. While Mila Kunis plays the eldest sibling in the Griffin family, she's actually the youngest voice actor out of the trio, being about 10 years younger than both Seth MacFarlane and Seth Green. It's not like Meg gets to call seniority anyway. In the episode German Guy, it's revealed that Chris's birthday is February 8th, the same as his voice actor Seth Green.
Well, learn my birthday!
The whiskey Brian keeps locked away in his safety deposit box is designed to resemble Glenfiddich, a premium Scotch brand. He may be a poser, but at least he has good taste in liquor. Family Guy isn't the first time voice actors Mila Kunis and Seth Green have crossed paths. They both appeared on That 70s Show, with Kunis as main character Jackie Burkhardt and Seth Green as series regular Mitch Miller. I see Seth did his best attempt at copying Chris's hair. The character Dr. Hartman is named after animator and show creator Butch Hartman, who's been a friend of Seth's since college.
Aha, that car's getting towed.
Though it may just be a coincidence, the iconic Family Guy death pose seems to look awfully similar to a pose a dead body makes in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You can only hope you hit a cool and interesting pose when you die. Lois is the last member of the Griffin family to receive a scene where she farts on camera. Only the most in-depth and enlightening research over here at Sweaty Clam.
I'm sorry.
When Quagmire lies about his Japanese heritage in Halloween on Spooner Street, history buffs could easily realize he's lying when he says his grandfather was a kamikaze pilot at the Battle of Midway. Kamikaze pilots didn't actually become a Japanese war tactic until the Battle of Leyte Gulf, which was 2 years later. The episode Road to the North Pole features the song All I Really Want for Christmas, but the song wasn't originally written for this episode. The song actually dates back to 2001 when it was recorded for a comedy album called Swallow My Eggnog by the duo Kevin and Bean. The song would be re-recorded years later with several lyrics changed. The character Mr. Washi Washi refers to the show Star Trek as the Mr. Sulu Show. This is a little reference to how some Asian countries rebranded the show The Green Hornet to be The Kato Show to put more emphasis on the Asian character. Neil deGrasse Tyson is credited as the scientific consultant on the episode The Big Bang Theory, which features time travel, paradoxes, and the birth of the universe. Seth MacFarlane would later produce the revival of the show Cosmos, which Neil deGrasse Tyson hosts. The episode Seahorse Seashell Party takes place during a hurricane, but the broadcast debut of the episode had to be delayed due to a series of tornadoes that had ripped their way through the southern United States, just so people weren't reminded of the tragedies that had just unfolded. When the Cleveland show aired, Cleveland was given a slightly altered design due in part to the show being produced in HD. Yet when he appears in the Splendid Source, he still uses his old design. This was because Family Guy wouldn't start being produced in HD until Season 9, as Season 8 was already in production before Fox made the decision to have all their shows presented in 720p. This means that the HD designs of the main cast would actually make their first appearance in the Cleveland show, not Family Guy, a historic achievement for a historically forgotten show. The Family Guy animators have given the Griffins some of the same facial structures to identify them as a family. Chris and Peter share the same nose and chin, while Meg and Lois have the same mouth and nose. To piggyback off of this, despite having the same facial features, Meg is somehow considered ugly in comparison to Lois. But to be fair, it's not like Meg carries herself with the highest regard.
Meg, stop eating with the serving spoon. Nah.
In the pilot episode of Family Guy, Peter reveals he didn't have his first fart until he was about 30 years old. No wonder he made them his whole personality. He didn't get the chance to grow out of them as kids like the rest of us.
What the hell was that?
Peter has appeared in every episode of Family Guy except for Send in Stewie Please and Brian and Stewie. Many of the gags in Death Has a Shadow originated from Seth MacFarlane's Life of Larry short, including Peter seeing Philadelphia drunk and God being embarrassed by the story of Job. Mae Whitman has voiced several characters for Family Guy, including Anna Lee and Julie. Whitman is perhaps most well known for voicing Katara in Avatar: The Last Airbender. The episode Friends Without Benefits revealed that Peter has an Instagram account called Peter Pumpkin Eater 69, which is an actual account that gets updated every now and then. Every member of Family Guy has been sent to jail at least once. Didn't know rap sheets were hereditary, but you learn something new every day.
Hi.
Did you also get caught trying to vote in Ohio?
Family Guy, of course, was expanded on from Seth MacFarlane's student film The Life of Larry, which carried over many of the same elements. It features a bumbling father, his talking dog, his wife Lois, and his son. This short film was later retooled for a pilot called Larry and Steve, which focused heavily on the dynamic of the clueless owner and the intelligent dog. You can see a lot of Family Guy in this short, including a pilot that kind of looks and sounds a lot like Quagmire.
Ricky, I know you've never flown a plane before, but why don't you take the controls while I go in the back and grab a wee nip of the creature?
Mike Henry, who voices Herbert, has said that he got the inspiration for Herbert's voice from the senior citizens he used to work with at the grocery store.
Get your fat ass back here.
In The Hand That Rocks the Wheelchair, Bonnie states that she does voiceover to pay for her crippling gambling addiction, which is a reference to her voice actor Jennifer Tilly, who is a professional poker player. In 2008, Seth became the highest paid TV writer and producer in Hollywood, signing a $100 million 4-year deal with Fox, covering his work on Family Guy, American Dad, and The Cleveland Show. Blue Harvest was used as the title of the show's first Star Wars spoof because it was the original working title for Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, which was used in order to prevent leaks from happening. Despite being a failing writer on the show, Brian does have an actual real-life book that was published in 2006. I guess if you're already struggling with women or what it means to be a man, getting advice from a dog couldn't make things any worse. A minor detail you may have missed in the opening to Family Guy is that while the family's making their way up the stairs, Joe can be seen kicking his legs with the help of his hands so he can be in sync with everyone else. Mike Henry has used the same voice he gives to Bruce to a variety of other animal characters in the series, including the shark from Jaws. Funnily enough, the animatronic shark from that film was lovingly named Bruce by the crew of the film. The Star Wars parody trilogy is officially titled Laugh It Up Fuzzball: The Family Guy Trilogy, after the quote that Han Solo says to Chewbacca in The Empire Strikes Back. The episode Family Guy not only reveals that Lois's mother Babs is Jewish, but is also a Holocaust survivor.
So Grandma Hebrew Bag is actually Jewish?
Yes.
In real life, Lois's voice actor Alex Borstein had a grandmother who was also a survivor of the Holocaust, though we don't know if that little tidbit led to the creation of the aforementioned episode. In the courtroom scene in The Simpsons Guy, both Seth MacFarlane and Simpsons creator Matt Groening can both be seen drawn in their respective shows' art styles. A cutaway gag in Prick Up Your Ears about Liam Neeson being useless at playing an American cowboy led to the actor's involvement in Seth MacFarlane's film A Million Ways to Die in the West. But Neeson only signed on because they allowed him to use his Irish accent in the film. Adam West was asked to join the cast of Family Guy due in part to Seth MacFarlane working with him on the show Johnny Bravo, where West played an exaggerated version of himself, much like he does in Family Guy. Family Guy's cancellation led to the show being heavily aired on Adult Swim, which is what convinced Fox to revive the show years later. It's that success on Adult Swim that also helped Seth Green get his show Robot Chicken up and running on the network. The D in Apartment 23 reveals that Brian's Twitter handle is @dogbackwards, which is a real Twitter account dedicated to him.
You should tweet that. #fire everyone.
Although the show complains about never winning an Emmy, the crew has actually won several, including Seth MacFarlane, who's actually won 4 Emmys for his voice work on the show.
Oh, wow! My God! This is unexpected.
Many characters have been written out of the show because of the passing of their voice actors, most notably Adam West, Angela with her voice actor Carrie Fisher, and Peter's mother Thelma with her voice actor Phyllis Diller. After Angela was written out of the show, Consuelo replaced her in the opening musical number for the show. It was about time that girl got her due. The BoJack Horseman parody that the show does in Disney's The Reboot isn't entirely accurate, as the Hollywood sign in the background is actually missing the D since one of the earliest episodes of the show.
Normal words, but a horse guy.
The Griffins have been stealing Joe's Wi-Fi for years, as seen in episodes like This Little Piggy and Movin' In Principal Shepherd Song, where their Wi-Fi shows up as Joe Swanson guest. In Crisscross, Meg reveals that she's part of a group that routinely trashes Anne Frank's house every year. Somebody's jealous that someone's diary isn't nearly as popular.
I'm part of a group that kind of trashes Anne Frank's house every year.
Fox initially asked to have the Kool-Aid Man breaking through the wall removed from the pilot, but Seth argued that the show was a comedy and the scene absolutely needed it. Now the big glass of juice is a staple of the show. Despite routinely seeing Jesus perform miracles in front of him, Brian is still a devout atheist. This guy could make it into heaven and still find a way to be a contrarian about it. This is done mostly because Brian has more or less been intended to be a reflection of Seth MacFarlane himself, which makes sense considering Seth uses his regular speaking voice for the character. Mila Kunis was only 15 years old when she landed the role of Meg in the show, making her the only teenager to actually be playing a teenager in Family Guy. Not old enough to buy alcohol, but old enough to play a character who tries to sleep with the family dog. According to Quagmire's driver's license and Foxy Lady, his last reported age is 61 years old, making him by far the oldest one out of the friend group.
What's your secret?
Carrots. Sometimes I grind them up into juice or just eat them raw. Or insert them anally.
In Love Thy Trophy, Lois mistakenly refers to Bonnie as Debbie, which was actually Bonnie's original name in earlier drafts of the show, and the copy of the script Alex Borstein had been given was actually an older version. Kevin Swanson has had 3 different voice actors. He was initially voiced by John Cryer in his first appearance, but would later be voiced by Seth MacFarlane until his disappearance. When he returned from faking his own death, he was voiced by Scott Grimes, who remains his voice actor to this day. The plot of Fast Times at Buddy Cianci Jr. High, where Chris is almost coerced by his teacher to kill her husband, is actually inspired by a real-life crime perpetrated by Pamela Smart. Contrary to her name, she wasn't smart enough to get away with it. Seth MacFarlane has stated that one of his favorite jokes in the series is a cutaway in Da Boom, where Peter tries to feed actor Tom Selleck through the TV.
Down the hatch. Come on, you. Hey! None for you, Higgins!
Tales of a Third Grade Nothing reveals that Peter attended Martin Mull Elementary School, which is named after the actor who also graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design, the same school Seth graduated from. Seth MacFarlane has stated that the inspiration for the quote giggity came from his friend Steve Marmel doing an impression of Jerry Lewis.
Giggity?
Oh, I say that.
In the pilot pitch of the show, Tom Tucker was originally called Mike Tucker. Glad he changed it. Honestly, don't think I could have seen him as a credible news reporter with a name like that. Also in the pilot pitch, Mike Tucker and Diane Simmons worked for Quahog 6 News, which was later changed to Quahog 5 News. Seth has stated that Tom Tucker's voice is actually the easiest to do, but it's also the one he gets asked to do least by fans. That means there are people out there just begging for him to do the Ida Davis voice like a bunch of freaks. Oddly enough, MacFarlane has stated that doing the voice for Brian is actually more difficult because there's no funny voice to hide behind when it comes to the more emotional scenes.
Nobody gives a damn about animals. I just never realized how little meaning my life had.
Normally, as voice actors get older, the voices they do for their characters tend to get a bit lower. However, Seth MacFarlane and Alex Borstein have acknowledged that their voices for Peter and Lois have gotten considerably higher over the years. Simpsons creator Matt Groening has stated that he would want to steal Stewie and make him a Simpson if he was allowed to have any Family Guy character, with Ernie the Giant Chicken being a close second. In return, Seth MacFarlane has stated that he would love to steal Mr. Burns. Perhaps there's a bit of a player trade that can be arranged.
That's a character from another show, sir.
Simpson, you say?
Pretty much, sir.
While Stewie is yet to have an official label put on him, Lois has made it clear she's bisexual over the show's run, having dated both men and women in the past, including her frenemy, Bonnie. In Turkey Guys, Peter mentions that Lois had a stroke that permanently altered her ability to say the name Jack Robinson.
Jack
It's possible said stroke could have been caused by the tumor she had in her brain, as seen in P-Tarded.
Oh, I'm a tumor.
Alex Borstein and Cherry Chevaprava Dumrong co-wrote the episode It Takes a Village Idiot and I Married One, making it the first episode in the series to completely be written by women. The two would also co-write a book of the same name that would be published around the same time as the episode's airing, basing it off of Hillary Clinton's It Takes a Village. In Girl Interneted, Meg wears a jersey that resembles the Chicago Bears jersey worn by William Refrigerator Perry, which makes sense because Meg would adopt the nickname Refrigerator Meg in the episode. In Cootie and the Blowhard, Joe gives Brian the stick that Peter and Lois gifted him for his wedding, which doesn't make any sense because Bonnie and Joe were already married when they first met Peter and Lois in A Hero Sits Next Door. Both the Griffins and the Smiths from American Dad have eaten a person, and weirdly enough, actress Elizabeth Banks was involved in both instances. In Family Guy, she voiced Pam Fishman, whose son Ben Fishman was eaten by the Griffins on Mount Everest in Into Fat Air, and she played Becky in the American Dad episode The Vacation Goo, where she was eaten by the Smiths. Alex Borstein won an Emmy for her voice work in the episode Nanny Goats. The same night she won an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Family Guy created its very own Simpsons character in Shanksgiving with Police Superintendent Chalmers, who is the identical brother of Superintendent Gary Chalmers from The Simpsons. Corey's World, a how-to YouTube channel first introduced in Big Trouble in Little Quahog, is an actual YouTube channel that you can watch right now for quick tips like starting a lawnmower or performing a tracheotomy. The first person to ever voice Meg was Seth MacFarlane's sister Rachel, who voiced her in the original pilot. Rachel would get the chance to voice Meg again 20 years later when she took over singing duties in adult education. The episode Trump Guy wasn't the first time Seth MacFarlane got the chance to insult Donald Trump, as he was actually the roast master for the future president's Comedy Central roast. Mayor West appears as a ghost in No Giggity No Doubt, but this episode came out before the show ever acknowledged that Adam West, the actor or the character, had actually passed. The episodes the Griffins commentate over in the episode You Can't Handle the Booth is called New Phone Who Dis, and it can be watched in full without the commentary on the DVD for season 17. Using the QR code that appears in The Chicken or the Meg, or going to visitcorysworld.com, allows you to see the other contestants on the Mass Dating Show, with a different character appearing every time you refresh. Ernie the Giant Chicken's death in The Chicken or the Meg was confirmed to be canon by the showrunners, meaning he might be gone for good outside parody episodes. The rule is, if there's no squint of the eye, there's no pulse. The episode The Edible Arrangement was read live at PaleyFest in 2025 for the show's 25-year anniversary event, a year before the episode involving Lois and Stewie conversing premiered. Seth MacFarlane and Alex Borstein had both discussed developing a female-led animated sitcom back in 2011, but for reasons we may never know, the show never materialized. The World Trade Center appears in the establishing shot of every city in the episode Peter and Lois's Wedding. This was done to parody the show Friends, which prominently featured the buildings in its establishing shots before September 11, 2001. We've met almost every member of Quagmire's immediate family that he's mentioned so far, including his mom, dad, and his sister. The only one we have yet to meet is his brother Gary, who is apparently deaf. Speaking of his sister, the episode Coma Guy seems to confirm the deaths of several characters the show hadn't acknowledged, including Quagmire's sister Brenda, Lois's ex Ross Fishman, and Peter's third-grade teacher Mrs. Wilson. The Family Guy team strongly dislikes the show Caillou, since most of the team have children and are exposed to it around the clock, so they always take the chance to dunk on the show when they can.
The only show he watches is Caillou.
Well, then that little French-Canadian weirdo is the potty mouth.
Despite being heard for years, Bruce's former boyfriend Jeffrey wasn't officially seen and named until the episode Finders Keepers. I'd be embarrassed for people to see that soul patch if I were Bruce too. Acting couples Sam Elliott and Catherine Ross all play characters related to Adam West. Elliott plays Wild West, Adam's cousin, and Ross voiced Adam's mother in a cutaway. The episode One If by Clam, Two If by Sea features a character named Nigel who has a daughter Eliza, which is strikingly similar to the two characters of the same name in the show The Wild Thornberrys. The first ever F-bomb that had to be censored came from The Thin White Line. Swearing had been censored up to that point, but always by in-universe means.
I don't have to impress you.
Seth MacFarlane has stated that his least favorite episode of the series is Forefather. If you're having trouble remembering that one, then you probably see where he's coming from. The first instance of Quagmire saying giggity is in the episode 15 Minutes of Shame.
Hey, no problem, Meg. You probably bought me another 3 minutes. Giggity, 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 giggity.
The Griffin's original address was seen in Brian Portrait of a Dog as 725 Spooner Street, but it was later changed to 31 Spooner Street. Peter's deaf co-worker Stella is played by an actual deaf actress, Marlee Matlin, who the show's poked fun at on a few occasions.
Oh, come on, Marley. I know you can't hear them, but you gotta feel those things slapping out of there.
Stewie's fear of the Queen album, News of the World, from the episode Killer Queen, stemmed from Seth MacFarlane's own fear of it as a child. The sequences played in reverse in Yug Illimath were actually animated that way, rather than being animated with the normal flow of time and then being reversed. For a guy who doesn't like monogamy, Quagmire's been married several times. Once to a woman named Joan, an escort named Charmise, a giraffe, and even Cleveland. Twice. The showrunner for the upcoming Stewie spin-off show is Kirker Butler, a longtime Family Guy writer who wrote episodes such as Padre de Familia, Barely Legal, and Something 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 Dark Side. 50 seems to be an ominous age for Lois, as it's been hinted that it'll be the age she dies at. Stewie left a bomb in her uterus set to go off on her 50th birthday, and doctors have told Lois she'll be lucky if she makes it to 50 thanks to the damage she received delivering Chris. Peter's uncensored, well, Peter can be seen on the DVD version of the episode Airport 07. But that isn't even the most egregious example of nudity in Family Guy. There exists an extended, uncensored version of the marriage counselor tapes from Road to Rhode Island, which show the woman completely topless and pleasuring herself. This was never meant to be seen, and it's unclear how it leaked, but the scene can be found online. Obviously, it is not safe for work, so be careful Googling that. And that's all 200. Once again, thank you so much for helping us achieve this incredible milestone, and be sure to tune in for even more great Family Guy content.